Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrew back here for the Build Review Show. It is Monday, August 26th, and this is our show where I pull up users' builds and contest flashback and give them personalized advice about things I think that they can do different to build stronger sets of lineups here. And so excited to jump in today. We do this show Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. We had 2 people sign up for today's shows. So let's jump right in. First person is going to be Renegade. They wanted us to review their MLB Showdown build from last Friday here. So let's get them up on the screen here and let's dive right in. So we are on the August 23rd Cincinnati-Pittsburgh Showdown contest. And let's start in the contest tab as always here. So taking a peek at their contest selection. So I think it's good. They start from the bottom, a little bottom up approach. You know, they kind of have a amount of money that they want to play today, regardless of the contest sizes. So they only put 10 entries into the 20 max. I think that is the right thing to do always here. Only thing I would mention is mix in some single entry and 3 max, even in these showdowns. I don't know what's all available in the lobby, but even if you played the $2, put 1 entry in the $4, you know, that gives you some just some exposure here on your portfolio level to some of those other type of contests there. So consider mixing those in along with these other contests that you're playing would be my only recommendation there. But as far as that goes, let's jump into a contest and see how you are grading out. So we'll take this 20 entry quarter jukebox here because you have more entries here. And let's open up the users tab. All right. Renegade. 20 lineups, some ROI. So this is really good, right? If I recall correctly, we did look at one of Renegade's MLB Showdown builds last week as well. And I'm almost positive they were negative sim ROI. And I think it was like, if I recall correctly, it was like negative 18%. And we kind of determined like, hey, you know, might be using too aggressive of like a geo mean or something like that. I hope I'm remembering the right person correctly. But either way, you know, positive 19% here is very strong. Highest is like in the 30s here, which is 3 people. We see 1, 2, 3, 4 people in the 20s. And then he's right here at 19%. So really strong showing there. You got to like that to start. Now let's come in here and compare some things. So average salary is a little bit higher than some of these other sets, but I don't think that's a huge deal because he still has 18 out of the 20 lineups are unique. So, you know, if I saw that like, hey, you know, the average salary is a lot higher and you're duplicated, I would say maybe, you know, playing some lower salary lineups might be beneficial. But in this case, I wouldn't worry about it. I think you're pretty good there. And then as far as sim average score looks solid, right? Right in line with a lot of these other sets. You know, when you're playing really well and you have a good process and you're doing a lot of the right things, we're just going to see less, right? There's going to be less things wrong. It's going to be more like, hey, you're doing a good job. Keep it up. So far, that's what I'm seeing here. So all good stuff to start. Let's jump into this build that's says juke. So, you know, assuming quarter jukebox here. And using single game saber score, solid sorting metric. Has the aggregate metrics for salary and projection. These look really good. Just nice data points to have and to reference. Using mini uniques of 3, totally a personal decision there, but it is totally fine. And, you know, they're at a mini unique of 3 and their last lineup in their set is number 46, which means that, hey, we're diversifying, but we're still in the top 10% of our pool of lineups, which is good, right? Trying to stay at least with saber score in the top 25 to 50%, here in the top 10%, even better. All right, let's come in here to some of these individual tabs here. So captain tab, no min or max exposure changes. Utility spot, no changes here. So being very unopinionated, trusting the builder. Looks good. No adjustments on the stack types. One adjustment here on Cincinnati. I think this is good, right? I'm not 100% sure why they did this, but you can see that the change is grounded in something here, right? And what they're using is the pool exposure. They went in here, they said, hey, I want to play some Pittsburgh 5-1s. Maybe there weren't that many. I want to match the minimum exposure to the pool exposure. So they're using that pool exposure to say, hey, give me at least this much. They end up with 15%, nice and balanced, allowing some opinions in there, but using data to kind of back up why they're making those changes, at what rate, et cetera here, right? So this is the one single minimax exposure change they made, and I think it's a good one. So overall, very, very strong set of lineups, doing a lot of the right things, grading out really well using Saber Score here. And I would say keep it up. You're definitely on the right track here, especially if your build was the one that I remember from last week, came a long way really fast, and loving what I'm seeing. So good stuff. All right. Hopping over to our next person here. And we're going to get Brian up from the Discord. And they want us to do the early slate yesterday, which we could totally do. Let me get that all pulled up. 825. They said they're early. I think this was actually the main slate, though. So let's jump in here. Okay, so we're on Sunday, August 25th. The main slate was like the earlier time slot here. It looks like they played some other contests as well. All good stuff, spreading out that action across these different slates like that. So let's jump in here, starting the contest tab as always. And let's see what we can see. So this is good. This is really good. So, $1, $3, $5, $12, $1, 3 max. I think the only other one you probably could have got to was the $3 3 max is probably one that would have mixed in here as well. But, probably could have missed it in the lobby, something like that. But this all looks good to start. And then same thing, right? Starting with like the quarter. Don't even be afraid to play the dime times, right? I mean, even if I've talked about this, like it's better to play the dime times and duplicate lineups than to not play them. So I would recommend playing them if you have access to them. Mini max, $1.20, throws a couple entries in the moonshot, throws a couple entries in the flagship. I think this is okay, right? Want a little bit of access to it. Just make sure, you're not allocating too much of your bankroll to those bigger contests, right? But it is okay to have a couple shots there. Okay, so let's go and review. I want to do the solo shot. So let's do a solo shot. Okay, users. Sort by sim ROI. Okay, so let's see what we can see. Average salary is a little low compared to some of these top sets. There's some with a little bit lower salary, but average salary looks slightly low. Sim ROI is about -3 here, so some room for improvement, which is great. That's what the show's for. Uniqueness looks good. Sim average score might just be a little low here, at like 96 points. We talk about like, hey, there is like a range where it's okay to be between. And it looks like the range is closer to like 99 is kind of like a point here. Now it's hard to know like what that point is, right? But like we see one person here with a really high sim average score, 106. And then but then we see somebody with 100, we see 99, we see 98.8, 100, 104, 101. So seems like this sim average score is a little too low, and just simply increasing that can definitely help us to, you know, take them from negative sim ROI to positive with just that one change alone, right? So let's go and see what we can find out in the build. All right, we are going over to this 20 max build, and let's start here. Okay, so it looks like he might have lowered min salary slightly. It was probably 48,000 default. 47.5 is like not a huge change, so I'm not super worried about that. It's okay to lower this most of the time, but I think that, if you're striving to play some higher projected lineups, projection is typically correlated to salary. So I might go in the opposite direction. So if this was like 48,000, I might actually. So that's one idea there, is taking this from 47.5 to 48.5 and going in the opposite direction. Saber score looks good. I would definitely experiment with a projection filter. So the way we talk about doing this is coming in here and setting a filter to basically trim out the bottom 10% of your projected score lineups. And you could see the effect this has when you add in an aggregate metric for average projection. So right now your average projection is about 99.15. And then if we go and filter, say projected score, show me lineups with projected score greater than 92. And we're just kind of guessing, right? We're basically trying to just start with a number and get to a point where we're trimming out like 10 to 20% of the pool of lineups, which in this case would be like 50 to 100. So the good news is that doesn't seem to have a big effect on our top lineups. But if you start increasing min uniques more, or making some adjustments, and you have to go further down in your pool, you could end up on some of those lineups that maybe you don't want to play. So it's just like a good thing, in my opinion, to be aware of. And let's see if we can see what some of these exposure levels look like. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, so sort by exposure. So either way, I think this is a good filter to start incorporating, this projected score one. This average projection aggregate metric can be really helpful when you're using Saber score, because you don't have another good measuring stick when making adjustments to your lineups. I think min uniques of 2 is fine here, right? If that's a number that makes sense to you, that you're comfortable with, that's okay. This is, really just a tool to manage your risk of your lineups. And if you look at your exposures and you're happy with them at this level, then that's by all means the right number for you. Okay, no min-max exposure changes to players or teams. Or stacks. No lineup rules. Okay, so good news. I think that is also important, right? You want to avoid mistakes, and it doesn't look like you're making a ton of them. So I would do a couple things here. Number one, contest selection looks good. first thing I would do is change the minimum salary from 47.5 to 48.5, whatever the baseline is. If you want to increase it 500, if you want to make it, 49, if the minimum is 49,000, you could probably leave it. If it's 48, make it 48.5, make it 49 if you want. Add in the aggregate metric for projection, add in the filter for projection to get rid of that bottom, 10 to 20% of lineups, and see if that helps you to have sim average scores higher or closer to some of the top sim ROI sets. So give that a couple days, make those adjustments, and see if that's helping you out. And then we can always pull you back on screen and see how you're doing. So happy to have you back on the show to check in on your progress. But other than that, really, really wasn't that bad overall here. So that is positive, always positive. But all right. Looks like those were the only two people who signed up for the show today. Didn't have a ton to go over. Had a really strong showdown from Renegade, and then just a few tweaks here needed for Brian. So very, very hopeful for both players in this case. Reminder, we do this show Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, and we're always looking for new people to sign up each and every day. So if anybody wants to sign up, I can pull up your builds, give you guys some advice and feedback here on the show live. All you got to do is drop your DK username in the office hours channel in Discord. But until tomorrow, looks like we're all set here. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, take care. Good luck. Thanks. Bye.